Welcome to the Aristocrats Soccer Podcast, the elite podcast in all of podcasting. Jake, how are you this week?
Great, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. Aristocrats Soccer Podcast. Soccer, football, Aristocrats. Got to get our little catchphrases in. So what feedback did you get from our interview from last week with Matt Hedges? It seemed to go over really well, and as we're recording this, just came out yesterday.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I took away from it was how many parents of young youth players that I've connected with, how interested they've been in the podcast in terms of like the lessons that it could teach their kids and the youth players, because they listen to the first podcast that we did. They listen also to the Hedges interview, and they say, this is almost like a training session for my kid, because they're learning all these different life lessons, whether it be persistence or like grinding, working hard, or just different stories that Matt shared or that we shared the previous episode, just how important it is for a youth player to have a strong mentality. And that was the biggest takeaway. I think people will be interested in the stories. Obviously, every player that we're going to interview will have their own special story and unique story, but the lessons that the viewer takes from that, or the listener takes from those stories, is so important.
Yeah, well, I think that's basically just why we are the most sophisticated and elite of soccer podcasts, to put it simply. So yeah, the Hedges interview went great. Just getting a chance to listen to it myself, definitely found it to be a worthwhile listen. Hopefully you folks out there will listen to it. I saw the FC Dallas plug in a bit. Some of the supporter groups, you would probably know them a bit better than I would, with Greenville, definitely plugging it.
Yeah, the
some of our friends.
The Reedy River Ride.
Yeah. Yeah, and also the club, and thanks to Greenville Triumph as well for, helping to promote it. So both of our first two episodes dropped this week, and as we're recording this now on Thursday, and so our this episode will probably be coming out next week. And so the Hedges one went great. It was great to get them, and we're in the process of getting more great guests. And before we touch on that, though, I just wanted to touch a little bit on big week for you and for Greenville, getting into the final of USL League One. You just want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, here at Greenville, we've had a great season. Honestly, we've played 13, we've won 10 and tied 1, and then the 2 that we lost were both in the same week at the end of August. So we've really been extremely consistent, getting results week in, week out. And this past week, we clinched the final. There's 11 teams in the league this year, and the top 2 make the final. So we clinched a spot in the top 2, and now we're 5 points away with 3 games left into clinching a home game in that final, which would be awesome. I'm not sure how many fans we can get, just in terms of the social distancing regulations and all that, but it'd be awesome to have a final at home in front of our home fans, in front of our supporters group. And yeah, these last 3 games now are hugely important. And it's been a crazy year for everyone, but for our club and the way we've handled it, and the way the leadership of our club has handled it, between the owners and the gaffer, John Harks, I think he's done an excellent job. I think one huge thing that people don't really realize is when a lot of the teams during the quarantine, when they first came back to training, they were going 100 miles an hour. They were doing fitness days, they were doing this, and they were doing that. And it was like a 2-month time frame where you couldn't do contact training. And I think a huge part of our success is we just worked on the small details. We worked on crossing and finishing. We worked on passing drills, touches, but we didn't crush our bodies because it was too far away from the season. And I think John and the rest of his staff, Alex Blackburn, Brian Mackey, they do deserve a huge amount of credit for that, because I think we're fresh as we ever been. And that's not common this late in the season. And I think we've been able to exploit other teams just because of how hard we work and how much our energy levels are incredible. So to clinch that final appearance this week was awesome. But we're not done yet. We've got a lot more work to do.
What did it feel like when you found out? Was it comparable to maybe in the past when you clinched like a cup final with like Galway?
Honestly, no. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna give you a great story. Just because we're at a point where we expected to be in the final, and we were kind of a good bit ahead of everybody. We want to pick up a result every week. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't some huge accomplishment because, quite frankly, we made the final last year. It's something that we have to do. It's the first step. You have to qualify. But we made the final last year and lost. So the goal this year is to make the final again, and as we did, and to get over the line. And something that's hugely important with our club is it's built on performance. The culture is performance, and it's not necessarily the result. But at the same time, as competitors, you don't want to go to a final and lose. So we're looking forward to that date a few weeks from now.
I guess what I'm just trying to think of, like, as your past experiences and then comparing it to your soccer and having one promotion with Galway and then comparing it now, and looking at, where you're at with USL League One. I mean, it's got to be an awesome, amazing accomplishment, but just think of how different it would be without getting too far into the promotion relegation debate. Imagine now if you're in a final playing for promotion to the next level up.
Be different gravy, Dave. We can do a whole podcast on the promotion relegation argument, but being a part of that in Ireland, that was the best night of my career for sure. Winning promotion from the second division to the top division in Ireland with Galway. And if that was the case here, even if it was just between USL League One and the USL Championship, I think that would make the world a difference. And I think it would incentivize players both on the top end of League One and the bottom end of the championship to put in the performances at the end of the season. And the incentive is still there. You want to win the championship. You want to be successful, but that little extra motivation where you can be like, all right, next year I can go play in USL Championship if I win tonight or if I win the league. I think it's something that'll come, though. I think it'll come in a few years down the line.
Okay. Well, yeah, again, we don't want to go too far down that road. So the road we're traveling this week is through Canada and a country you're familiar with, and we're going through Edmonton and Calgary with the Zebie brothers. Really excited to have two top players, elite players, and as well as two guys that you're quite familiar with.
Yeah, they're both great guys. They have a level of professionalism, and they were just great guys to be around. That was something that I took from Edmonton. The on-the-field stuff was very up and down, but the guys that I met there, so many of them I still keep in contact with, and that's not always the case in this game because you go from one club one year to the next, you're playing for someone else, so it's tough to maintain those relationships. But Allan and Bruno, who we're going to be speaking to, and then a few others from Edmonton, I still speak to fairly regularly. So I'm really excited to get them on the podcast, get their insight into Canadian soccer. Allan has a little bit of insight as well into the NASL days. We speak of European trials. What else? A little bit of Canadian youth national team stuff. So there's a lot of good stuff on there. I'm sure you're looking forward to it, Dave. Am I right?
Yeah, very excited. We got to see more this year. We got to see some, actually. I'd never seen it before, the Canadian Premier League on was it on Fox or beIN Sports? I couldn't remember. And just having more time in my hands, and also with the pandemic to be able to watch games, and then with the changes in the coverage here in the U.S. is more of the leagues and have gone to streaming services, less of the leagues that are on these networks with cable. So the availability is there for the Canadian League, and it was just fun to get a chance to watch some of those games and kind of get a sense of where they're at and how it stacks up to games here in the U.S. and other parts of the world. Yeah,
100%. So without further ado, should we get to this interview with these two brothers?
I think it's time.
All right, let's do it. Of the Aristocrats soccer podcast. Your hosts, Dave Harris and Jake Keegan here. This week we have some extra special guests. Bruno Zebie, Allan
Elite guests, Jake.
What's that? Unique
Elite guests.
Okay. And I played with Bruno back in my FC Edmonton days. I played with Allan back in my FC Edmonton. And Bruno was a regular at training when he was spending time back during his college and PDL days. So I know both of them very well. They're great guys, and I think they'll be great guests for the podcast. You guys can listen to little bit of their background, where they grew up, and where they are today. So, Allan, I know you're very talkative, so you can start us off. Can you guys just tell the viewers where you guys were born and how you guys came over to Canada?
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, first, thank you for having us. Yeah, I'm born in France. Moved to Montreal when I was 9. Started playing there a little bit, and then moved to Edmonton when I was 15. And then, yeah, that's about it. And then, yeah, eventually I started playing. But I'll let Bruno talk too.
Yeah, so Allan's the older one. He's 2 years older. So again, he was 9, I was 7 when we moved to Quebec. And obviously we've been playing in France, but it was never organized, never competitive. So it was just out of love for the sport. And then in Quebec, that's when we started playing a bit more competitively, organized soccer. And then we moved to Edmonton. And for me, it's basically where I made more of my name for myself, definitely when we moved to Edmonton.
Yeah, that's I mean, it's awesome. You guys just have been in that kind of soccer back in Paris up until you were 9, right, Allan? And Bruno, you were 7. So so you got a little bit of a taste of it before you went to the hockey country up in. But did you guys grow up? So when you moved down over to Edmonton, did you guys always play for the FC Edmonton Academy?
No. So I started playing the amateur club, with Extreme. I played for them for 3 years, and then the academy opened when I was, I think, 17. Me and Bruno went to the tryouts, we made it, and then played together in the academy for like a year or 2. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's also about the same thing. Played for a youth club, and it was one of the most successful clubs in Edmonton. So it's called Edmonton Juventus. And basically, there's when you win the league, you go to provincials. When you win provincials, you go to nationals and so on. And so we always had a strong group where we made nationals pretty much every year. We could qualify for it. And we were lucky enough to win it when we were 14. So that was a bit of my background growing up. So I was kind of well known in my age group in Edmonton. And then, like Allan, came to the tryouts. And then it was more of a combine where they invited a bunch of players who they felt had a chance of being part of the academy. And then we both were part of the 16 that were selected.
Yeah, when I was over in Edmonton, I really respected the depth of quality in the youth program. I mean, obviously I've never met Alfonso Davies, but he grew up in the Edmonton area, 13, 14, and then to meet Sean.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, when I came to Edmonton, I had no idea what it was going to be about. I knew it was like the northernmost place, over 1 million people, and I was like, are there even going to be players here? They just all going to be foreigners. But it was really cool to kind of see how many talented players there were in Edmonton. So you guys are good.
Yeah, I think it's surprising because I feel like a lot of people almost kind of look down in Edmonton because if you look at Canada, you're thinking Vancouver, Toronto, Quebec. Those are the 3 main areas. And to be fair, there's more good players there usually, but at the same time, Alberta is a close 4th, and sometimes they're even better than the top 3. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely. So now I guess we'll move on a little bit to Allan. At what age did you start going on trials over in Europe? And I think you went on trials with Rangers and Leeds. There were some big clubs in there, right?
Yeah. So actually, you went on trial before that. So I went on trial when I was 15, 16. I actually went to England first. Mm-hmm. So I went to Ipswich. Ipswich went well, but then there was some background problems, paper problems it didn't end up working out for me. So I came back home. And then later on, I went to so I made the U20 national team. And at that time, FC Edmonton offered me a contract. But I thought, because back then the NASL, North American soccer, NASL wasn't that great, right? So I was looking at Europe. And so I talked to the club, asked them, can you guys give me a chance to maybe go on trial, and then maybe if it doesn't work, come back, right? Things happen, they get upset, so they pulled away the offer. So then I ended up going to Leeds first. Didn't work out. Went to Rangers. I got injured. things didn't work out, and then I ended up staying in England for like a year, and then I came back to FC Edmonton, and yeah, crazy story, but yeah, and then I ended up signing for FC Edmonton.
Which was the club that you were close to signing with? Do you mind sharing it?
Ipswich. Well, there's two. So there's Ipswich when I was 15. It went well. I was there for like a week. It went well, but then at that time I was in the program called the NTC. So it's like the National Training Center, like the best kids in the city kind of train together. And they were just asking about me, about my information, like how I was doing and stuff like that. And yeah, Sean Fleming, the coach, kind of sent them an email asking them like, yeah, how I'm doing. And then the club got scared because obviously with England, like in England, you need certain papers and it's different over there, right? So the club got scared a little bit. It told me to kind of just figure out my papers and then come back. And then that kind of never happened. It was such a weird situation. So yeah, I ended up coming back. And then Rangers, I did well. They wanted me to stay, but then I got injured. So then they told me to, so that was towards the end of the season. And then they told me to come back for preseason. So that was the plan. So that's why I stayed in London. And then somehow my agent just stopped replying to me. He just ghosted me, right? So then I don't know. It was a weird situation. I tried to contact the club, but didn't work out. I tried to go out to other trials, didn't work out. So I don't know. I don't know if it's bad luck or just whatever, but yeah.
Agents
those were the clubs.
They
yeah, agents are crazy.
Another player that they're also
Yeah.
kind of club. I mean, you never know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because at that time you wouldn't have signed a first team contract. Would you have? You would sign kind of a youth kind of development contract, or what would have?
Yeah, well, it's probably would be like with I think it was under 21, or like not the first team, but the second kind of team. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a great opportunity for you, but it's just
great.
that's in the game, right?
Yeah, that's just that part of it.
So Bruno, did you end up going on any of those kind of similar trials, or did you just kind of go
Yeah,
straight?
I got lucky enough to go to one trial. So me and my brother both went to Guingamp.
Oh yeah.
Second division team in France, and it was 3 hours away from Paris in train. And obviously, when you're under 16, unless you're very, very good and you play with the U16s, if you're under 16, there's no residency program. So you gotta make sure that you go back home on the weekend. And then if you're 16, there's a full residency program where you can stay the entire week, and obviously they feed you and everything. And then it went well for me, and the coaches were happy with me, and they actually wanted to sign me. So that was sorted out. But unfortunately, Allan got injured. So it didn't work out for him because he got injured.
Yeah, always stuff by timing.
So I was kind of banking on Allan making it so I could stay with him over the week, but it didn't work out. But that was basically my only trial ever. And then I also had one at Whitecaps too when we were still in the USL, and that one was disappointing because I came in and I was one of the better players there actually. Even with they had some first team players trained there, and I was really I was playing very well. Me and Dominic Zator from Cavalry was there too, and we were two of the better players there. And then when it was the end of the trial, they approached me and said, "Sorry, we don't need any players in your position." So it was a bit frustrating because they flew me out there and everything, and it was like, why would you bring me in if you didn't need that position? But it was still a good experience, and yeah.
What would you guys? Sorry, go on, Dave.
Yeah, just a quick question, and then go back to Jake. But I was just wondering how you guys got identified for the trials, like what the process was. It seems really good. You know, it seems like the scouting is pretty advanced, and you guys are getting opportunities with some really good clubs over in Europe.
For me, and I'm sure that will be the same thing. It comes into connections, right? We don't have that many connections, but we still had a decent amount. And obviously, when you have a European passport, it's easier to go on trials in Europe. So it was a bit of contacts and connections that got us those opportunities.
Yeah, just people, coaches that we knew, kind of new agents, you know, and obviously with the passport, it's a lot easier to kind of go on trials. So yeah, connections and then agents, pretty much. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What would you guys say you took away from those kind of I guess we'll call them failed experiences with trials?
For me, kind of realized the level wasn't far off, especially at the youth level. You know, like I could always go to sessions and compete. Like I was never one of the worst players. But at the same time, I also felt that if you want to make it, you have to be better than what they have, you know? So yeah, it was kind of just a reality check, just like, yeah, I'm definitely doing the right things. I'm good enough to actually be in that environment. But then I need to work harder, obviously, to kind of just be better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the main takeaway for me.
Yeah, for me it's a bit the same. For me it's if you're not one of the top 5 players, you're not making it. It's just as easy as that, as simple as that. If you're one of the, let's say, if you're in the middle of the pack, yes, they appreciate you and they like you, but at the end of the day, they don't need you because they have players in the area where you don't have to spend money for it, and they'll just sign those players. So when you go to tryouts, you got to make sure that you stand out because at the end of the day, if you don't stand out, you just won't make it. And then it's all about consistency. Once you're there, you got to make sure that you earn your spot because we've all been there as players. When we see someone coming as a trialist, it kind of like upsets the balance, especially when you don't know them very well, and especially if they play your position. You know what I mean? So when you play position, you feel a bit threatened, and you want to make sure that they don't take your spot. So it's one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that, or well, just from my experiences, like there's so many times with a trial that people get so down and they're like, so and so team didn't want me, FC Edmonton didn't want me, maybe in your case, Bruno, Vancouver Whitecaps didn't want me, and they take time to kind of feel bad for themselves. How important do you think it is to have a strong mentality and just say, yeah, this guy doesn't want me, this coach doesn't think I'm good enough, but I'm on to the next one, and hopefully down the road somebody will give you a chance?
For me, I take it personally when the type of stuff happens, especially because I'm honest with myself. I know whenever I don't perform, and I know when I perform. So if I didn't perform and they let me go, no problem. Sure, I can feel down for a little bit, but then I move on, right? But if I play very well and they let me go, and I know I'm better than what they have, I kind of get offended and I don't get down on myself. I just make sure that I prove myself, and then at the end of the day, I can be like, you know what, like you guys were wrong and I was right. So it motivates me more than anything.
Yeah, I remember this off. Sorry, I
Yeah.
remember this off season, Bruno, and you kind of had that same vibe, and I loved it. I respect that, and I love it.
Exactly.
But go on, Allan.
No, yeah, for me it's the same thing. There's in this sport, honestly, there's a lot more failures than success. I believe, anyways. So it just builds a character, and it's just like Bruno said, it's just you kind of use it to push yourself to work harder to get better. But yeah, I don't know. It's just motivation, you know. It's motivation, and just it's failure, but you learn from them, and you kind of keep pushing, and that's it. Yeah.
You guys are teaching the youth that, right, at TWP?
Try to, anyways. Try to.
These guys
For
are.
those of us not on the inside, what is TWP, guys?
It's a soccer company that I started with Tomi Amiriobi, Morris Sasio, and Carson Smith. The ex-teammates of mine, and then unfortunately 3 of them left. So right now it's me, myself, Tomi Amiriobi, and Adam Mortoxi just running it. So we're doing like one-on-one training. We're doing group sessions, and whenever teams need extra coaching, we go there and just help the community and with the coaching. Yeah.
Yeah, losing Carson Smith was probably addition by subtraction, but you know that's another story.
Oh, you know him?
I'm joking. I like Carson a lot. Just a joke because I know him. He's actually really nice guy, but
Yeah.
Super nice guy. Yeah. I've been talking to him a little bit now, but yeah.
He's from Long Island where I live, so I've known him for a few years now. And I interviewed him before he went to Edmonton and everything. He's a really nice guy. I'm just
Yeah.
Gotta throw in some laughs.
Maybe last questions for these guys, their kind of youth career, before we move on to maybe some more successful times past their trials, or not? Move on.
As far as their youth, maybe I'm interested to hear a little bit more about what it was like playing for Canada, youth nationals.
Good question.
Oh yeah, it was great. At first, when I first got there, I was still in Edmonton, kind of playing college soccer for Nate, and everybody at that time were already playing for like Whitecaps Academy, like the MLS academies, or they were playing in Europe, right? So it was for sure like scary a little bit, you know, playing with all those big names. But I don't know, my first camp I was able to do well, so like they called me for the next 5 camps or so. But it was great, like going to Spain, playing against I think we played against who was it? We played against Spain, we played against Mexico, like playing against Scotland. So just playing against those great players, great countries was a great experience, of course. And then yeah, also like the qualifiers was great. You know, we made it to the semifinals. If you won that game against the USA, we would have qualified for the World Cup. Unfortunately, we lost 3-1. I think we scored the first goal, but we couldn't. Yeah, we couldn't. Yeah, we didn't do good enough defensively, but. Yeah, no, it was great. Just being able to kind of compete against the best players in the world or in the continent at your age was obviously a great experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a step up because I played for the U18s and the U20s. I got 2 camps under my belt, but for me, I know that I pretty much blew it because I wasn't in the shape I needed to be. So when they called me up, I was playing for the academy, but that year we weren't playing any games. So getting match fitness and just getting a good rhythm and getting better wasn't there, right? So my first camp I actually did well. We went to Spain and we had a little tournament. We had a good tournament. Lots of teams like Argentina, Japan, Spain, and we made it to the quarterfinals or semifinals, and then we got absolutely destroyed by Spain. I couldn't believe it how good they were. There were a bunch of players from Barcelona, Real Madrid, all those good teams, and yeah, it was just a different level. We could compete, and this is something I find. I find that Canada at the youth level is always able to compete up until U20. I think U20 is when things start getting a lot tougher. But when it's U17 and such, I think that we're as good as any team in North America or even sometimes South America.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well,
as a whole, it's a good experience.
I feel like at the U20 level, like other countries, most players are already playing pro, you know. Well, like in Canada, you know, we're still in the youth setup, so we don't have that experience, you know, that man experience. So that's why I think there's the level, the gap, you know, widens. But yeah,
it's getting better now, especially since we got a CPL. I think that'll help us moving forward. But there's still a big bridge and gap to kind of go over and make up, because right now I don't think we're there yet.
No, definitely not.
You're definitely getting there, though. The improvement is so but from now
definitely.
10 years ago, it's massive.
Yeah.
We have a very good pool of players now. Very good, some young players, Davies, Davids, Aaron, like all those players. There's even like lots of MLS players now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exciting times for Canada.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
You have anything?
Do you want to go to the next one, or?
Sure. We'll move on. So, you guys had very different after your trials, unsuccessful, successful, whatever it may be. But you've had very different paths to playing professionally. Al, you kind of went straight into the FC Edmonton first team.
Yeah.
Played kind of sparingly the first year or two, and Bruno, you took kind of the college route. You didn't come to the U.S. for college. And a lot of our viewers would know the U.S. college system, but the Canadian system is very similar. It's just less teams. It's a similar level. And you also played in the PPL, which is now USL League 2 in the U.S. So we'll just touch on kind of – first we'll go to you, Bruno, and we'll say explain that experience, how it helped develop you as a player, and also what kind of success did you have at those levels?
Yeah, so it's interesting because as a player, I've always been a player that obviously was talented, but I was also a player that could play many positions. And so honestly, up until college, I didn't really have a position knocked down. You know what I mean? I just played here and there. And then my first year at U of A is when really we worked with the coaches and we're like, you know what, like I'll play center mid. And I played, defensive mid that year. My first year at U of A was in 2016. And we went all the way and we won nationals. The following year, again, I played in the same position, did very well. but unfortunately we just didn't win it. And the 2017 was my first year in the PDL. It was a new experience for me, but I thought it was the right path, because obviously university is actually very good in Canada. You have some teams who don't really compete, but I'd say within the 40 plus teams that we have in Canada, well, probably 50 plus, there's probably 10 teams who could probably compete with the top 50 in NCAA. So I was part of one of those top 10 teams. And then in PDL, it was the same. We got pretty much the best players from Canada West, so from Vancouver, Alberta, and so on. We recruited them and we played PDL. And 2016, I wasn't there, but they made it to the final actually, and they lost to Michigan Bucks. 2017 was my first year there, and we lost 2 key players right off the bat, but we still did okay, and we lost to Portland Timbers in the playoffs. And that team was amazing. They have about 4 players who are playing MLS right now. And then the following year, 2018, we basically made a super team that is pretty much now cavalry, and we went on to win the whole thing. And in between 2017 and 2018, there was actually a funny time when I actually came back to Edmonton, because Colin Miller had heard that I did very well with Fort Hills, and he called me back for the rest of the season with FC Edmonton. And he actually wanted to sign me, but the timing wasn't right at all, because it was around the time when we were hearing rumors about the NASL folding, and there just wasn't enough time left in the season for me to even consider it, because had I signed the contract and actually played some games, then that would have messed up a number of years I could have played in university. So that's something I really thought of, alongside some players telling me that I should probably stay in university.
Jake Keegan.
I got some friendly advices and pushes here and there. To,
run from Colin Miller, run.
And so, I decided to stay in university, and then I had another good year in PDL, and we won the whole thing. And around that time, we were finding out that CPL was actually going to be a thing, and so it was very exciting. And then, fortunately for me, everything worked out, and then I signed my first long-term contract with the FC Edmonton.
Yeah. I'll mention the one game you did play in 2015 with FC Edmonton.
Yeah.
Did you score the goal or get the assist? But
it was funny, because so what happened is that we only had about 13 players healthy, and I've never seen them in my entire life. And then Colin's like, you know what, we need some players. So he signed me, and then we go to Fort Mac to play a game. And John Smith was actually dressed. John Smith was actually dressed as a player too. And we had a good team, but we weren't winning too often. But that game, we're up 4-1, and we're playing very well. And I'm thinking, oh man, like I'm actually go on, because usually seeing players cramp up. We've only made 2 subs, and that's it. I don't go on the field, so I'm like, well, obviously I'm here to make up the numbers, and I'm never gonna play. We go to Fort Lauderdale next game, and we're down 1-0, and I'm obviously just warming up, just having fun. The fans are just saying some stuff at us, and I hear Jeff saying Bruno, and I'm like Allan's on the field. Like, what do you mean? And then he's like, no, it's you. Like you gotta go on the field. And so I go on the field, and I'm just running everywhere. I'm just saying, you know what? No matter what, I'm just gonna work hard and see what happens. And then I made a run, and then the ball was in the air, and I don't know how I won it over the defender, but I knocked the ball down. And then Saeed Jalali came in and just volleyed the ball in, and we tied the game. So I'm thinking, oh yeah, I had a great game, you know, like I made an impact. And yep, that was the end of it. Never played it ever again. Yeah.
Your moment of glory, Bruno.
Moment of glory. I got one assist, and that was it.
That's a great story, just because the system, in the U.S. it's getting a little bit better now in terms of college players. We're allowed to have academy players with USL, and they keep their college eligibility. But for a while you couldn't. You either had to be pro at the USL level, whatever, or you were amateur at the NCAA level. Whereas in Canada, you guys have kind of been ahead of the times
Yeah.
where go into that rule that you touched on a little bit, how it is in Canada, where if you play like one professional year, you have like one less year of eligibility, or what exactly?
Yeah. So, and they made a new rule too. It's like if you're under, I think 18 or something like that, even if you play pro. So let's say I played at like 17, 16, 17 or 18. I played 3 pro games. I would still be able to go to university after, and no one really impact anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Allan, let's hear your side of the story. And I mean, obviously, we know that you signed with FC Edmonton. It was 2015, right? Or 20?
Yeah, 2015. So after, go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, so go a little bit into that and your early years at FC Edmonton, and also I'd be interested to hear your side on kind of if you were to go back, would you rather take a path like Bruno and play all the time at the PDL level, play all the time at the college level, or are you happy with kind of being a squad player for a couple of years at FC Edmonton? I'm just curious to see what you think would be more beneficial for you.
Well, okay, so I'll go back to the story. So after London, I came back to Edmonton, and I didn't want to play for FC Edmonton anymore. But then guys like Bruno and a few teammates convinced me to go back and train with the reserve. So that's what I did. And then after a couple of weeks, Colin asked me to just come and make up the numbers with the first team, right? So I do that, and then I go to, I think because it's 2 seasons, right? So, spring and the fall. So in between the two, we usually do like a mini preseason. So Colin invites me to that, and then I do well, and I just end up staying full time with the first team, just for training, right? And at the end of the year, I'm like, you know what, Colin, what's happening? Like, you know, like if I'm not gonna sign, I'm gonna obviously go to university and all that. And he tells me, you know what, it's like a month left of the season. He's like, you know what, stay for the end of the season, and then we'll see what happens, right? I end up doing well, and he offers me a 6-month contract. And so then I started actually my first year, started playing right away. So like the first away game, I made the squad, and then after like 3 games or so, like I think Albert Watson gets injured, and I come in right away. I guess I think it was against Minnesota. They had Christian Ramirez, and they had what's his name? Like the low guy that played for
Yellowborough.
Yeah, Ibarra. Yeah. So that was my first game. Yeah, that was my first game. So
Wow.
did well. And then the next game we played against Cosmos when they had Raul, that Senna, and I started that game. So yeah, my first year actually I ended up playing 21 games. And after that, he extended my contract for 2 years. Colin extended my contract for 2 years. And then my second year, I think, is that when you came?
My first year.
2016.
Yeah.
You came in 2016? Yeah. So that year I don't play too much because we get Eckersley, you know, obviously there's Eddie Edwards. So I'm playing fullback at the time too. There's Eddie Edwards, there's Johan Smith, you know, so like there's a lot, Sean Nicola. So there's a lot of experience. I don't play that much, you know, I play 11 games. At the end of the season, I asked Colin to kind of release me because I want to leave. I want to play, right? And he tells me, no, like you're gonna be a good squad player for next year, so you just work hard and just, you know, you'll have a spot. And I was like, yeah, whatever, sure. And then I played. So I'm not really sure because I have my option, right? So coming from 30, I'm on the bench, and then I think midfield wasn't doing so great. I think who do we have again? We had
that second year. Who did we have? We had
Daryl 4 days.
Yeah. No, Daryl wasn't there.
yeah, Daryl was gone, I think.
Was it Nick's first year?
Yeah, the second year. It was the second year.
Okay.
We had Dustin. He would play in the middle sometimes.
Yeah. When Nico was good too. Nico, like, from Argentina.
Yeah. Christian was there too.
Christian was there, yeah. Moro. But yeah, whatever. For some reason, the Colin doesn't really trust the midfield, and he just puts me there. I do well, and I played, I think, 22 games. So it was, honestly, in 3 years, I played like 50 or so games. So, you know, you asked me a question, like, looking back, would I have gone to university? For me, you know, I kind of regret not really having like a degree or something like that. But in terms of football, I think I made the right decision because, you know, if I look at players my age or other players that kind of just went to university my age and after that didn't really get a pro contract, like, I got that experience, I got it, you know, I got a chance to travel all around the States, you know, I play against great players, like I get the chance to play with you, obviously, we play against like Raul, it was Senna, there was Samaras. I think Samaras played for OKC for a year. You
Joe
know,
Cole.
like the what?
Joe Cole.
Yeah, Joe Cole, exactly. You know, so no, I would do the same thing. I think, you know, like maybe try to do school online at the same time. You know, because now that I'm getting older, I'm realizing that, you know, I should have done something. But in terms of football, you know, like I love my experience. You know, and like, now I'm close. If I had a full season this year, I would have had like 100 professional games, right? So I'm happy with what I did so far. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, people that don't know about the NASL, like, it was the Wild West of it was like the original NASL to a lesser degree. The amount of star players in that league.
Yeah,
The
very
guys
good league.
even like
people talk about USL and stuff like that, but the level of the NASL, like, it was, especially 2015, 16, 17, before it folded, it was really, really high. Like, there's a lot of experience, you know, big players coming from Europe. It was, honestly, for my development anyways, like, that was great. I learned a lot.
Even guys like Poku were coming up, and Poku was a beast.
It was crazy.
It was a lot of fun to, you know, like, the Cosmos were very close for me, so I could go watch the games all the time. And yet what you guys are saying is 100% accurate. You know, it was I definitely think it was a higher level than USL. And, you know, maybe if you had a top USL game, you know, different story. But, you know, just it wasn't as big of a league, and there's more money being spent, you know. And you guys are, you know, the clubs were able to get, you know, guys like yourselves and other really good quality players, and the games were really interesting to watch. It was just like a level below MLS and above USL, I thought, for that period of time.
Yeah.
They even had they broke the domestic transfer fee with Richie Ryan, $750.
Yeah.
Bonkers for a second division league, and I still don't think MLS has broken it. Maybe they have, but the amount of money that was going to that league, I mean, obviously it became unsustainable, but it was really cool to see just average players making real livable salaries, and then you also have big stars that get 6 figures easily.
Yeah. The one quick story I'll tell also, like, at the time was as part of my advocacy role for Jim Keegan, trying to find him a club, talking to Mark Dos Santos when he was coaching San Francisco Deltas. He was getting ready to go in there. For some odd reason, he sent me a whole list of, like, basically job descriptions with salaries for the positions for the Deltas. And the salaries, I was, you know, looking at them, and I'm like, and I sent it to a couple people, of course, you know, who wouldn't, and we're all looking at it like, how the heck are they affording this kind of money for the players at this level when they're not getting that kind of revenue coming in? You know, huge shocker that the club only lasted 1 year, but that was a heck of a year and a heck of a team. And, you know, they spent an awful lot of money on those players, but, you know,
they won at least. It's a one and done.
Unfortunately, we couldn't get Jake there because, you know, a certain person named Colin Miller. But anyway.
I was going to go. Mark was interested in signing me. I don't know how far it would have actually gone if Colin would have let me go. But that second year, I wanted to go. Similar to you, Bruno. I was like, listen, the first year I was playing out of position on the wing a lot. I was like, can I go? And so I kind of reached out to other coaches just trying to get a feel. And San Francisco was Mark Dos Santos one that was interested. And Colin was just like, no. And Mark and Colin obviously don't like each other. So like, Mark was like, we're never going to figure anything out. So it's just, it's one you're like, what would have happened? It would have been really cool if I got a chance to.
Because they won the league that year, right? Yeah, they won it, right?
Yeah, they won. One and done, man.
Yeah.
They got a documentary on those guys. One and done.
The first and last dance.
Yeah.
So, quick question I wanted to ask you guys, just kind of from out of different area, is who besides Didier Drogba is the greatest player of all time? Since, you know, you guys are from the Ivory Coast, obviously Didier Drogba, or not from the Ivory Coast, but parents are. Didier Drogba has to be the greatest player of all time, right?
We're not like that. No, we're not like that. We're not biased like that.
I like Drogba, but for me, I don't know. For me, the best player of all time, because I still remember, like, I still have memories when I was in France for '98, you know, and I remember, obviously, France, '06, you know, for me, the best player is, my favorite player anyway is Zidane. Like, there's no one really as magical or as better than him, for me anyways.
Not even Conte?
Honestly, Conte is, because you guys used to call me Conte all the time. That's why I kind of like, you know. But other than that, nah. I like players with flair, you know. So yeah, Zidane is a guy for me.
Yeah, for me, I'm just a fan of the game. So I've never really had a favorite player. Obviously, when it comes to the greatest player of all time, especially that I've watched, like I've got to go with Messi because he's just brilliant, right? But it honestly doesn't mean that he's my favorite player because I don't really like Messi that much, to be honest. But watching him play is a joy. Obviously, he's amazing. And things he does with the ball is great. But for me, I don't really have a favorite player. I like watching the game a lot. And there's obviously the players like De Bruyne, you do special things, Mbappe, Neymar. And it's just interesting seeing the different type of stuff they do. Like you said, like Conte, like you watch him and just the way he wins the ball based on plays, it's very entertaining to watch. And you watch De Bruyne, the way he passes the ball is very entertaining to watch. And you watch the dribble like Neymar. So for me, that's just how I view the game. I've never really had a favorite player, and I still wouldn't have one right now.
Just an inside joke for that also is just a shout out to some of the guys I know from Ivory Coast here in New York based. Guy Roland Cabene played in briefly in MLS. Got to know Guy a little bit. And also a couple of the guys like Henry Manhebo, Guhan. He played with Tulsa Roughnecks. And so there is a bit of a group of guys from Ivory Coast actually from there, you know, or maybe from France like yourselves, you know, here in New York. And we actually have, you know, these small African tournaments where like they'll have like the national team of each country, and they'll have players, and some of them played professionally, maybe here, maybe over the, you know, wherever.
Yeah, we have those in here too. Those are very fun.
Those are crazy. Tackles flying in, so physical.
Yeah,
it's hard.
The Ivory Coast guys are all about Drogba, so that's just kind of why I threw that out there. So.
Yeah.
I think you actually may have recruited, was it Allan or Bruno, to come to one of these tournaments for one of your buddies? Was it the one in Toronto, maybe?
I could have.
I think
Toronto is the Croatian tournament.
Oh, the Croatian tournament. So I wonder who you invited.
Yeah, no, but it's Croatian clubs, but like Tyson, I maybe one of the Zebies, you know, might have been definitely Tyson Frago. My buddy Tom was talking to him. They do a team out of Connecticut, and it's they also run the Macron U.S. office or whatever, U.S. you know manufacturing of the kits, and they do a team. You know, their Croatian background. They send a team up to the tournament. It's a Croatian tournament. Yeah, I mean, if you guys are available next fall, they're definitely interested. Hopefully, you'll be busy.
The next year, and they'll be both playing in the final. Well, we'll get into who you're playing for. We'll hit that.
One question also, if you don't mind, Jake, just real quick. Also, is I was just reading an article about both of you and your brother. You know, your relationship as brothers, and so I was just wondering if Bruno left to go play for Cavalry this year because you guys spent so much time together during the pandemic that you just didn't want to see each other anymore.
I was already away during the pandemic, so that couldn't be it. I was already in Calgary.
I read that you guys were together with another player during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, so what happened is that so I was in Calgary, and then obviously we found the pandemic and everything. So I came back for about a month or so, and we actually have a player. His name is Jano Isua, who lives at my house, and he's a good friend of ours now, and he's from Cameroon. So it was the three of us just in the house, just trying to stay fit, play some soccer, tennis, work out, the boring stuff.
At that point, you guys, one of you had to go.
Yeah.
I had to, man. But at least you went to freaking better team, so good for you.
We're going to go into just a little bit about last season, 2019, when you guys, Bruno, you signed your first, I guess, full-time professional contract. And Allan, after you spent a year in 2018, you had hip surgery, right? Was it hip surgery?
Yeah.
Yeah. So from running so many miles as Conte for 2017, towards the end of the year, you missed like the last 5 games. You had to get arthroscopic hip surgery, was it?
Yeah. I had like a hip impingement and a torn labrum as well, so they had to fix that.
Yeah. So Allan was out for a while, and in 2018, and you ended up basically just sitting out the season because of which is obviously really tough. But I guess I'll go to you first. Can you just get into a little bit about kind of the recovery process, how mentally tough it was for you, and then how good it felt to then sign again with FC Edmonton for 2019, first season in the Canadian League?
Oh, it was obviously very tough. Like I thought in 2017, I had a pretty strong season. I had agents and teams that were kind of talking to me towards the end of the season. So, in my head, I was getting ready to leave because my contract was as well, right? And as I was folding, so I was getting ready to leave. And then I didn't get my result till after the season, so probably in November. Like I got a scan and everything, got the results in November, and then I was told I needed surgery. So that was obviously devastating. Surgery too had to take place the next year in January, so like that lasted an extra 3 months. It was just tough, honestly, just because I was playing for 3 years already pro, so obviously losing a year, losing the fitness is just tough mentally. Seeing all your teammates see me playing too was hard. I ended up getting fit by May. Transfer window was opening in the summer, so I thought maybe I was gonna leave. I was talking to my agents, trying to figure out something, but at the same time I knew the CPL was coming. So I decided to take it safe, It's just I knew Jeff wanted to sign me, so I just decided to stay, just make sure I get fit, use the rest of the year to get fit to sign into the CPL. So yeah, that was great, just being like the first signing for FC Edmonton in the CPL. Obviously, having their history with the club, that was great. Obviously signing with Bruno as well, that was a great experience. But yeah, that was basically my off year, and then I'll let Bruno talk about the 2019 season.
So for me, I knew that I had the option between Calgary and Edmonton for the 2019, but I wanted to go back home because a lot of my good friends who I had been playing with since I was 12 were getting signed. So knowing them, knowing the way they play, knowing the way my brother and Adam play, guys have grown up around, I knew that if we all play together, we can actually achieve something good. So at least I thought so. So that was my thought process, and I signed for the club. And it was interesting because I still believe that we had a very good team. I think going from the back line to the set of midfielders and to the strikers, we were very, very good. We were missing better wingers and a good attacking mid. I think that's what we were missing in terms of players. But as a whole, as a team, we were very good. And then what made us difficult was the fact that we didn't have an identity as a team, because as players, we can only do so much. And we knew that if you put in all the right players on the field, we will produce to some extent. We will do well, but at some time, then obviously the coaching will have to play a part of it. And unfortunately for us, it was a new experience for a lot of players. It was their first year signing pro, and for the coach too, it was his first year as a first team head coach. And I feel like he just had so many ideas, and he kind of got lost in the thought of all his ideas, and he never really established a way he really wanted to play. So that kind of that made it difficult for us. And then throughout the season, we found form. we played literally all the guys I was talking about. So me, Allan, Adam, and a bunch of other guys who grew up playing around with, and we were pretty solid, and we knew what we were about, and we knew what we could do if we played together. And then one game, we had a lot of games in succession. So the manager decided to make some changes, and the changes kind of like upset our whole rhythm, our flow, our momentum. And then from there, it was very hard to recover again. And then we got a couple injuries. And then finally, again, once we got to play all together, we picked things up, started playing better again. And it's kind of the same scenario, either injuries from the most important players or trying to get some rotation in. And it was just made it difficult for us.
Yeah, it's crazy how people don't realize from the outside how much coach and your manager plays a part in a team success. Like, obviously, you have the recruitment aspect of it, which is a big part. You need to have good players. But once you have that base, and I feel like in 2016 and 2017 in FC Edmonton, it was a very similar situation. We had so many talented players, and in 2016 we were good because the players basically just ran the dressing room. And we had a lot of old players like Matt Van Onkel, Adam Eckersley, Albert Watson, Daryl Ford, guys like that they just said, all right, Colin Miller was the coach, obviously, but they took the onus was on them to set the standards, and we had kind of a settled team, and everybody kind of figured out their roles. Whereas in 2017, we got some new players, and things changed, and we lost some of that leadership. And at that point, it's so crucial that a coach comes in and kind of creates that identity that you're speaking about. And it's just, if it doesn't happen.
Was that the year Van Onkel went to MLS in 2017?
Yeah, he
went after,
the last year.
Yeah, because I remember seeing him in 2016, and he just unbelievably seemed like he was unbeatable.
Yeah, it was. I don't know what happened. He just was saying everything, just crazy. Yeah, I don't know.
This he would put the striker in on a breakaway with his by playing the ball out, and they just save it anyway.
Yeah.
Just as a fan, as an observer, it's just. And with other folks as well, and also what I remember reading, it just seemed like Van Onkel was such a key player, that the team was good, but that, maybe it was the system that, he was there to really kind of hold things together in the back and make those saves, keep you guys in the game, and then let the folks, up top try to get some goals in when possible, but it would just always keep you guys in the game, never get too far behind or keep it at a tie score, and then, get the goal if you hadn't done it early.
Yeah. Well, that was the game plan, right? Back then, it's just defend, hope you score a goal, and then just defend the whole time, right? So that's why Matt was so big for us.
Yeah. I also think not everybody loves the guy. He can be a little bit confrontational, but I think Adam Eckersley, just the kind of leadership and experience. He was a Manchester United player. He played first team games with them. I think a lot of the experience he brought, along with Pop and Albert, were unbelievable at center back. Just had that back line, and we had. But I still go back to the culture of the team was just so much different, and I think a lot of the time it's difficult for players to create that culture on their own, and I think it's really important for the coach to come in. Do that.
I can tell you that what saved us last year, because I think what I'm going to say, if we didn't have that, we would have been dead last. But what saved us last year was the fact that we had the best locker room I've ever had in my entire life at any level I've ever been in. Going back to when I was on trial with FC Edmonton back in 2017, I come in every morning, heads are down, there's no music, no nothing, right? Nothing at all. In 2019, it was basically like family. Like you come in the locker room, people are singing, the music is blasting, people are playing ping pong, all sorts of games. So we had some up and downs. Obviously, like we had a spell of like 6 or 7 games where we didn't score a goal, and obviously like that takes a toll on players, and players are starting to doubt themselves and they're starting to get mad at each other. But we actually stood together and we stood by one another, and then we went on a run with like 13 games where we only lost 2. And maybe tied like 4, and then we won the rest. So if we didn't have the locker room that we had, and I do give Jeff some credit for that because he signed the players. if we didn't have that locker room, we would have been a lot worse. We would have been a lot worse than we were last year. I mean, in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, people forget, like, you did finish third. It's not
Fourth, yeah.
You were distant third in terms of, because in last year you made the final, top two, but you were still of 8 or 7 last year.
Yeah, out of 7, fourth out of 7, so it wasn't the worst thing ever.
Oh, fourth, sorry. I thought you guys big trophy, like the third place trophy. Or whatever.
It's because we were third like the whole time, and then at the end of the season, we won like a terrible spell where we kind of like lost that spot. But yeah, I think one of the issues that we have in Canadian soccer, and I think there's a lot of good coaches in Canada. I think there's a lot of coaches who are progressive and learning and getting better. But the biggest issue that for me I have is that there's too many coaches that are reactive. So what I mean by that is that they worry more about their position than themselves. So when you train during the whole week, they worry way too much about their position than the way they want to play. And then another thing that is really hard to deal with, and I was talking to Allan about it the other day, is that too many coaches here in Canada say, listen, this year we'll play like this team. This year we'll play like this team. And at the end of the day, you're not at the training center with that team. So no matter how much scouting you do and no matter how much you watch them, there's no way you will really understand how they play. So for me, it's as a manager, because I coach a lot myself and I'm getting a lot better. And you got to have your own philosophy. And no matter who you play against, you got to play the same way every single game. Sorry, my battery's kind of going down, but I'm just charging my phone. So you got to play it the exact same way. And then just give me a second. My mom's just a bit too loud right now.
You can play.
Bruno's getting very passionate about his point there.
Yeah, he loves coaching.
So that's good for me. So I feel like you shouldn't be changing your philosophy. You should really try and find a way that you want to play, and then make other teams adapt to you, because you shouldn't be the one adapting for another team. So it shouldn't be like, today I'm playing against FC Edmonton, so I'm going to play this way, and then the other week I'm playing another team, so I got to play that way. It doesn't really make sense, and I think that's where a lot of coaches go wrong here.
I think a big part of that is just similar to how the players haven't had a professional league up until 2 years ago or last season.
Exactly, yeah.
Either. So when I looked at the CPL coaches when it first came out, I was like, I made a joke. I don't remember. It might have been to Tyson. I was like, look at this group of soccer dads. It's like, I mean, it was 7 guys who looked like it could be your Sunday league coach, or it could be your, I mean, looks aren't everything, don't get me wrong, but it just, that like there was a picture of 7 of the initial CPLs. I was like, and you can't fault them. Like JP, Jeff Paulus, who is your coach, or was the coach at FC Edmonton, he is very passionate about the game. But it's just, he's been coaching youth and he didn't have that experience. And if Canada had this CPL league years ago, maybe he has that experience and maybe he's a little better coach, similar to the way you guys could have been better players. And I think that's definitely a fair, I mean, we can criticize coaches, we can criticize. I do think experience.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like for me. First of all, there's lots of good coaches in the league too. Some very good class coaches, but same with the players. Some players are playing, but they might not be there yet. But the good thing is that they're actually playing, so they're experiencing it, and they will progress as they play. But when players got signed for their first year and their first year pros, some of them weren't ready. But at the end of the day, it's the Canadian league. We need Canadian players. So you got to throw them in there. So with same with the coaches and players, the coaches will get better, players will get better. And already this year, you've seen a rise in terms of level in the league. So, but I wasn't by any means saying that the coaches weren't good enough or the players weren't good enough. It's just there's a bit of both, just like in any type of league, a bit of both.
Absolutely, Allan. How would you compare the level of the NASL 2016-2017, CPL? Year and then CPL in this kind of shortened season? Going to that.
Oh, well, I would say the NASL is easily the better league. It's just, you just have more experience, right? You have players that play all over the world in big leagues, so you can't really compare, I felt like every game was challenging in the NSL. You know, after every game I was tired. After every game, like it was just a grind, right? Obviously, the way we played didn't help that, but you know, it was a bit harder. In the CPL, I felt like I could coast a bit more. You know, playing against a lot of first year pros, a lot of players that don't have experience. I don't know, like this year it got better. You know, like a lot of players on the second years. We have more internationals as well, better internationals, so that helps. But it's gonna take a while to catch to the level the NSL was. It's just at the end of the day, Canadians right now we're not good enough. You know, it's gonna get there with time, but we're just not good enough. And yeah, this NSL was just a bunch of internationals, right? Bunch of even the guys coming from the US, they already had games. Like you before coming, you came from Europe already. You know, like it's just night and day. It's just night and day. So CPL is just an up and coming new league, so you can't really compare it to leagues like that. Yeah,
It is an exciting time in North America, though. Like USL Championship games. I watch them, and I think to myself, this is MLS 15 years ago. Like there's really not much different. Like some of the players in that league, so many internationals. Obviously, you still have the academy teams that play the kids, but there's so many Phoenix, like a Louisville, like a Tampa Bay Rowdies, who we played Miami FC, who we played in the NASL. That quality is there, and I definitely think the CPL will get there soon. I think you guys do need a few more teams. I do think.
Yeah.
You know if there will be more teams next year? Breaking news on the podcast.
We're hoping there's at least one, but I don't know. But I think COVID really kind of like screwed some plans up, because I'm sure if it wasn't for COVID, we'd have at least one or two more for the following year. But I'm sure that in 2022 we'll have more teams. And for me, I'll see that it's exciting because you see young Canadians getting to play some minutes, and you see the odd player here and there really making a name for themselves. So I think, honestly, we need a building block, and we are the building block. But moving forward, maybe 10 years from now, this league could be very, very good. And even right now, like in terms of marketing and everything, it's actually really, like, I'm impressed with it. And I'm actually proud to be playing this league. And it's a league that I can see myself retiring in if that's my level. And if it's where I'm going to see the rest of my career, I have no problem with that. And I just hope that I try and help the league grow, because I know that if financially we make sure that everything is okay, and then we can get some more teams and all that, I think this league has a lot of potential.
That's the biggest thing for me financially. Like one of the reasons the NSL was so good is because we were able to pay the players, right? Right now in the CPL, I know it's a new league, but financially we're not there. We're not able to attract those big players, you know. So until we kind of just catch up to maybe like a USL level, or like, you know, like pay our players a bit more, I think CPL might struggle for a little bit. But I guess that's normal.
This is, I think, for our American audience, this might have been the first year, you know, that it was, the games are on quite a bit. I don't know if they really were on that much in the U.S. previously, but that combined, the availability of the games combined with, you know, the availability of time because of the pandemic, we're all, you know, home a lot more, way more time, so we're able to see a lot more games. And you know, I was impressed with the standard as well. I thought it was quite good, and definitely comparable to, I think I even told you, Jake, at one point that I thought the level was comparable to, you know, USL Division One and perhaps championship level too. You know, there wasn't much difference there. You know, maybe just a couple players here and there. But what do you guys think about the impact now in the off season, when we're starting to see a large number of players from the Canadian League going on trials in Europe?
For me, it was expected because, like I said, I think there's lots of good players, and one thing that I can say for American viewers is that they've seen us, but they haven't at the same time, because we played so many games in such a short amount of space that the level dropped. You know what I mean? So if it was a regular season and American viewers got to watch the whole season, they would have seen a lot of good players, some good quality football. So for me, it's no surprise that I see some players getting some interest in all over the world, actually, because obviously not everyone, but I'd say there's probably like the top 30 players who could be playing anywhere, really. You know what I mean? Like obviously not in the Premier League or anything like that, but they could be playing in League One in England, maybe even Championship or something like that. So for me, it's something that I expected and something that we'll keep seeing more of.
I also think it's a goal of the league, right? The league has an agenda of like producing Canadian players. You see with the rules, like the under 21 rule, where you have to get I think players under 21 playing 1,000 minutes, something like that. So I think it's definitely a goal, especially with the World Cup 2026 that might be coming in Canada. So I think they're definitely pushing towards that, right? So yeah, it's something we're gonna see and something that's gonna keep happening. But it's definitely great for Canadian soccer and then North American soccer, right?
Yeah, it's something that Dan and I talk about a lot. Is in particular with Irish clubs, that the way you make money is you get fans, you get whatever T-shirt, jersey sales, but the main way that clubs make money, especially like the lower league clubs, is you sell the players on.
Yeah.
And something that if Canada, and I mean the US as well, if Canada can do and become kind of a feeder league to Denmark, what's the guy, Angara, who's going there now. If Easton does well there, and they're like, ooh, we have a striker who banged in 15 goals in second division in Denmark, then they're like, all right, who else do we have in that league? What other young Canadians? And then clubs can start profiting, and that's how you can start paying players more, bringing in maybe more quality into the league, and just continuing to improve the level. But it's an exciting time. I'm watching Twitter, and I'm like this guy Easton Angara, like I've seen him play a few times. I know I asked for your one soccer password, Allan, to watch the games. But I didn't even FS2 in the US, Fox Sports was showing all of your games. So I watched
no, I saw that. That's crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah. But I watched it, and I think Easton's a good player. I mean, it's difficult in your team for a striker. But he has some really good finishes. So I'm really curious to see how he does. It'd be interesting.
I think he can make it in the game. I think he's got a high ceiling. Yeah. He's a hard worker. He works really hard behind the scenes, and he's got the body. And the thing though is, like, from your point of view, you're watching his goals and you're thinking, oh, it's just a portrait. He just gets his chance when he's in the box, he'll tap it in. But no, like if you really know him, you'll know that like he can take on a few players and then just bang one in from outside the box. He can bang in free kicks. So it's just a matter of exposure for him. And I think Denmark's a really, really good move for him. I think that if he does well, his career is going to take off.
So, guys, jumping, back to yourselves, what maybe talk, a bit about your 2020 seasons. I know they were a bit shortened, obviously, and then also maybe going ahead into 2021. Despite all the uncertainty with the pandemic, what are your thoughts about where you'd like to go and what you'd like to do as far as coming back, or maybe trying to look for a move to another league?
Yeah. Well, obviously, 2020 didn't go as planned for us. I don't know. I think
that's what FC Edmonton, right, Allan?
Yeah, FC Edmonton. Sorry.
Just good for anybody listening. Just
Yeah.
making sure they know.
Yeah, like Jake mentioned before, just like the leadership, we didn't have like we didn't have an identity. The players ourselves, we weren't able to get together to kind of just push the group to kind of just get to a decent level, right? Like we lost the first two games, and then it just went downhill from there. We never recovered mentally, and then obviously being in a bubble, you don't see anyone else. You're just kind of stuck in your ways. So it was really hard mentally, especially after losing the first few games. But now for next year, I don't know. My contract is done. It's harder to find clubs when you have a terrible season like that as a team. Individually, I thought I did decent, but obviously teams are gonna look at what the team did, right? So I don't know. I'm open to staying with Edmonton. I think there's a little bit of interest. Also, I have the French passport, right? So I would love to kind of just experience something else, because I've been with Edmonton since the academy, right? I left for like that 1 year to London for like a year, but then other than that, I've been here for 9 years now, 8 years. So I wouldn't mind seeing something else, but it has to be right financially, and it has to make sense too, right? We'll see.
Okay.
For me, I feel like there's a little bit of unfinished business. I definitely believe that Forge was a better team and they deserved it overall to win the league. But at the same time, we got very, very unlucky because out of 5 attacking players, so from attacking mids, wingers, and everything, and out of 7, from attacking mids, wingers, all that. We lost 5 of them. So we started well. We finished first in the first round, and then we just got hit with so many injuries, torn ACL, broken tibia, a bunch of muscle injuries. So at the end of the day, we just ran out of gas, and we worked very hard. And that's the type of football we play. We're a hard-working team. We press really well, but we were missing the creativity at the end. That's what it looked like. We played at the back. We played with the midfielders, and up front, we had the 2 that were remaining are very good players, but unfortunately, we couldn't really create for them. I'm a center mid, and I'm very good at what I do, and I actually had a good year, and I really showcased what I could do. But near the end, I had to play higher up, and I was doing a very good job of the ball. On the ball, I was doing okay, but at the end of the day, even the coaches knew that they were just hoping that we could create something out of nothing, kind of that type of stuff, because you can't be asking a player who's a ball winner and plays safe passes to really create or go and bang goals, you know what I mean? So it was a good experience. We did well. I think we did well. But for me, I'd like to be back in Calgary next year, and they have my option, so we'll see what happens with that. And right now it's just about trying to improve next year. Hopefully we'll have more of a normal season, and we can actually get our internationals in, because there's 2 players, we're attacking players too, that we couldn't get in the country. So that was also a bit of a letdown.
Has there been any interest or any noise or anything from the national team since your youth days, or have you guys been to any camps? Just gotten any kind of looks or any opportunities, or just
I see
about that process?
Being honest right now, as of right now, for any of us to coming in the team will be very, very hard. There's a lot of players ahead of us in the pecking order, and those players are very good players. So for me now especially, I think we gotta raise our game now, because we both had a good year, but now we gotta be more influential, because when you talk about CPL, there's always like the best players to talk about, but players like me and Allan are never in the conversation. So if we're never in the conversation in the CPL, as hard as it is to hear, there's absolutely no chance that we're ever gonna reach the senior squad. So the first step would be that if we're in the CPL, players like me and Allan have to be out there and be 2 of the most dominant players in the league, because if that doesn't happen, like I said again, we're not going to be part of the conversation. But if it does happen, then we can start entertaining conversation and see what happens from there.
Well, also, if you look at players our positions, they play in Europe. They play in Europe. Even guys like Jet and stuff like that, like other center mids, because we play center mid, right? They're playing MLS, and they're like stand-up players.
Wow,
right? So it's just really, really difficult at this point to get there.
Are both of you, Bruno, you're center mid, and Allan, you're left back? Because I was just looking online, and it seems like you're both online, and like Transfermarkt or something that has you both down as left-sided players.
Yeah. I think that's because of the 2019 season, because I played left back that season and Bruno played left winger.
Yeah.
We play on the same side, so maybe that's because of that. But we're both center mids. Like we're both like, yeah.
Okay.
Allan has played a lot of fullback. I'm not sure about you, Bruno. I didn't play.
I played a lot of fullback, man.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
I played everywhere. Even that one year when we went to Sask and I played a friendly game, I was playing center back. Nobody knows why.
Utility players.
Yeah.
So, Bruno, when do you find out about your option, whether or not Calvary is going to pick it up or not?
That depends on the coach. So right now, they're kind of like trying to. I think the priority right now is to try and focus on the pieces that we really, really need. Probably like attacking mid, wingers, and things like that. Also, I think now there will be a lot of competition for out of contract players, because there's a lot of top players now in the league that are out of contract. So there's lots of interest around the whole league. So I'm pretty sure that they're trying to focus on that right now. And then whenever they're ready, I guess they'll keep me updated, because we already had about 1 or 2 conversations and they went well, but there hasn't been a phone call or anything that tells me that picked up my option. So just a bit of patience. If they pick up my option, great. I'll be happy with it because I want to be back. But if not, then I think I've done enough this year to go somewhere, whether it's here in the CPL or USL or maybe even Europe. So yeah, not too stressed right now.
What are the themes like we've talked about on the show? Maybe you can start off, Allan, and then maybe Bruno, is just about the grind and, maybe, as far as, being a player and all the challenges you face. So maybe Allan, you could just tell us a little bit about focusing more on the more recent, the Canadian League, being, a limited number of teams and in such a large country, a lot of travel and how those types of things affect you as a player, affect your ability to perform.
I mean, I think I felt the grind more in the NSL, just especially because of the travel, the way, like, we're so far away from every team in the NSL, right? So the traveling was really took a toll on you, like. So yeah, in terms of that, the traveling definitely a big grind. Also, depends on what kind of coach you have. Like in the NSL, we have a really defensive coach, so it's just you defend, tackle, win balls, go on counter attack. So that takes a toll on you. I would say, it's just, I would say mostly the travel is the biggest grind for me, anyways. Other than that, it's just part of being pro, right? You have to be like, you have to take care of your body. You have to take care of your body. You have to make sure you do the proper things to make sure you're ready for games. But like you said, like, the grind is just part of the game. You just get used to it, especially in North America. It's so big, right? Even in the CPL, like, you go from Edmonton to Halifax, you have like maybe like one night to get ready for the game. So in North America, it takes a toll on you, but like, you have to be professional. You have to learn. That's why we talked about experience before, right? Like just being a first year pro, like you have to learn how to manage all those things, right? So yeah, that's about it. Just North America is just a grind in general.
I mentioned on our first podcast, we were talking about the grind, and I mentioned Shamit, how he's like, you got to be a grinder.
Yeah.
Or he's like a grinder. Shamit show him with the impact. So that's kind of where that question comes from with Dave and the grind of professional sports. Do you know, have any idea who the new coach will be with Edmonton, or no?
I do have an idea. I don't want to say anything right now, but
Can you give us a hint?
He's Canadian.
That's not a big.
I don't want to get in trouble. But yeah, actually, I was talking to an agent yesterday that told me that you might know who it is. So, but I think that person will be really good for the club. He has experience he does have experience in the USL, I think. And I don't know. I can't say too much. I don't want to get in trouble. But it will be good for the club, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
It would be exciting to have Edmonton be good. Like have a legit team, well run. And I mean, I think the owners of the club, the Fath brothers, they do a good job in terms of run the club well. They look after people, but I think that one position is very important as we spoke about earlier, and it'd be great to have a good man in charge, and then obviously that leads to bringing in really good players.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of need because obviously Tom Fath doesn't know soccer that well, So I feel like in the past in the front office we didn't have like soccer people, so we really need someone like as a coach that's really willing to take the responsibility to be like, this is how like a professional club should be run, and kind of just brings a football culture to the club, because I think we've been missing that for a lot of years, Even under Colin, it was there. Obviously, he's a football guy, but it was a more like grinding kind of like structure, He didn't like. We need a new coach to be able to because the academy is a big thing with FC Edmonton, right? So a coach that's able to run the academy, that's able to like nurture new talents, and is able to kind of teach players also in the first team, right? So it's just a whole new culture and a whole new soccer kind of culture is needed, right? So I think the next coach is going to be able to bring that. Yeah.
Could both of you talk a little bit about, one of the main things we wanted to talk about with the show was the idea of the brothers. And so both of you touch on your experiences playing together with each other and then playing against each other.
Yeah.
So how's it? Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, playing with each other, especially in 2019, was really nice. Like, we played, I think, probably like 15, 16 games together on the same side, on the left side. And if you look at it, like, Borges was one of the top players, one of the top wingers in the league. He played against us like probably like 3-4 times, and he wasn't able to do anything, right? On that side, defensively, we were always solid. We were able to combine well as well. So that was fun. Honestly, like, we never really talked about it, you know. We never really looked back to like how fun it was to play together. But yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed it. I wish we could have done it also this year. But and then this year, I don't think we played against each other. We played one game against each other, but I don't think I got subbed off.
You got subbed off and I got subbed in, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever played against each other? Like, at a competitive level?
I don't think so.
Not that I can recall, honestly.
I don't think so.
We'll have to set that up.
Well, hopefully next year.
Yeah.
And now it's gonna be fun because obviously we both play center mid, so being able to tackle each other would be nice. Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Bruno?
I think it would be a good battle. For me, I'm hoping that Edmonton is more competitive next year for the fans, for the rivalry. Because obviously, as a Calgary player, and then for Calgary fans, we're having a lot of joy right now against Edmonton, and it's great. We can banter all we want, but rivalries get even better when it's more competitive. So I'm still obviously hoping that we win every single game when we play against Edmonton, but I do hope that games become more competitive and the fans become more feisty with one another. So I look forward to playing them next year. Hopefully, Allan's playing for Edmonton, I'm playing for Calgary, and then we're in a situation where we get to play against each other for a good period.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to touch on, Dave? I just have one last question for them, and then we can hit the road.
Well, you go ahead, Jake.
If you have something else, you can go first.
No, you go. You go ahead. Jump in.
So my last question for both of you guys, doesn't matter who goes first. I guess age before beauty. So, Allan, you can go. So is there anything that you would like to share in terms of, A, kind of crazy stories that you've had along the years? I know I'm putting you on the spot there. Or B, an answer, the easier question, just give us something to pass along to the youth, like as a professional player, as someone who grew up and had a lot of trials but didn't have necessarily all the success they wanted. What's kind of the lasting message that you would give to the kids and the kids that you guys train or that you train with TWP?
Yeah. For me, it's just work hard. Just work hard no matter what. Don't like always try to stay motivated. You're gonna, like I said before, there's more failures than success in this game. So you have to stay strong mentally. But at the end of the day, like people say it all the time, but hard work beats talent all the time, right? So just see, even if you're not successful at anything, at a trial or maybe a game, just wake up the next day. Like, it's not the end of the world. As long as you work hard, you'll find a way to be successful. Like growing up, like I wasn't the most talented kid. There was so many players better than me, but what made the difference and what took me here is just because I work hard. That's all. That's all it is. Work hard and try to take care of everybody off the field. Don't follow the crowd. Just try to be as professional as possible. Just try to do your research. Like ask questions to people that have been there before, and try to mimic them. And try to just try to educate yourself as much as possible and just work hard. That's what I would say.
Yeah, for me it's a bit of the same, and I think me and Allan are very similar in that sense. It's about attitude. Even when I coach my kids every time, like here we gotta make sure that we work hard and we compete, because compete is a big word for me. You got to be ready to compete every day, training, games, because training is related to games. So if you don't do it in training, there's no way you can do it in games. So you got to make sure you have the right attitude. You got to make sure you're willing to work hard. And then obviously the talent is a big part of it. You got to make sure that you have some ability, because if you don't have any ability, you'll never make it. But if the ability is there, you got to match it with the drive and the attitude. And then if you have all of that, then you should be pretty good to go. And then the last thing is that you got to try and understand the game as much as possible. The more you understand the game, the easier it becomes for you.
Yeah, it's a great message. I think a lot of kids don't watch enough games. I think that's
Not at all. Not enough.
like
You
it's
guys are crazy.
It's crazy. If they'll play FIFA, which I actually think FIFA is a good learning tool. I'm a big fan of it. You learn about the leagues. You don't learn about the necessarily tactics of the game totally, but you become a fan.
Concept.
But the watching matches on a Saturday morning, you really can't replicate.
Nowadays, especially social media, they just watch highlights, skills, and then they think that's it,
I hate those kids. The kids who just want to step overs. It's like, guy, come on, you can't even do that.
Yeah.
Guys, just one last quick question. Who's the better Zebie?
That's it. That's an answer you'll never get, man.
Yeah, you'll never get that. We have different qualities. I would say I'm maybe a bit more defensive. He's more offensive than me. But we still kind of play the same roles, so I don't know. Depends what you like. Yeah. Yeah.
Very non-committal. Very legal brothers, and my sister, we'll both be explaining why we're the better one. Jake, obviously is the greatest sibling of his family. But any good Jake Keegan stories that we haven't heard?
Oh boy.
Jake Keegan stories. I don't know. Jake's pretty quiet guy. Like you don't have any crazy stories that I can remember.
I know, that's why we need to try to find some.
For me, the funny thing I find is because every morning I would show up, locker room, there's no life into it, no life, no one's really smiling, anything like that. And then I hear a whisper, go back to U of A. Every morning for about 3 weeks. Every morning.
Honestly, it felt like The Walking Dead, that locker room towards the end of the season. It was
so divided. It was so bad.
Yeah.
Like
I've never seen that.
Yeah, I've played 8 years now professionally, 4 years in college, high school, youth. That was by far the worst dressing room I've ever been a part of, and it's not even close. And it's also probably the least successful team I was on too. So I think there's definitely a correlation.
Yeah.
But crazy.
Hopefully in 2021, all three of you are in much happier dressing rooms wherever you may end up.
Oh, I was good, so I'm happy. I had a good dressing room this year and last year too, actually.
I know. I'm hoping again next year too, Bruno.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah. Jake, anything else or?
No, just thanks so much for coming on, guys. I know we're a new podcast, so we're learning a bit how to learn the ropes, but it's great having you guys on. Two guys I really respected playing with Edmonton, both alongside you, Allan, and then Bruno, you as mostly a training player, but I loved playing with Bruno when we did like small side, like 7-on-7, because he would that, and all the other experienced guys who were quote unquote better players, big side, they would fucking take the piss. So I loved having Bruno and Allan on my team in the small side at Edmonton for sure. So
always winning, man. Always winning.
But coming on, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, guys. That was a great interview. I really enjoyed having both Allan and Bruno on the podcast. What did you think about it, Jake?
It was an awesome interview. I can't thank them enough. They had so much great insight, and you can really tell how passionate they are. Not only about their own games, but also about coaching the youth. That's the biggest thing I took from it. And I think we might have couple coaches, maybe at high levels, maybe the professional level down the line. Especially Bruno, he seems to have that itch to coach, doesn't he? He wants to run his team, and he wants to go through and make his own tactics, and he definitely has that passion. I think Allan has a great passion for the youth player, and I think that could be his niche going forward.
Yeah, that's definitely something I also picked up on it from, you obviously know them. This is the first time I've gotten to really interact with them, and definitely picking up on the coaching and also the intensity and the level of professionalism. They both seem like they're very dedicated, very serious pros, and Allan had a very strong year as far as his individual performance, game in, game out. Even though Edmonton, didn't have the best year as a team, and Bruno had a little harder time. He definitely still had a good year, but I would expect that both of them will be playing with one of the clubs in the Canadian League next year, and if not there, maybe perhaps somewhere else. Both talented players, good, strong, serious players, good professionals, and just seem like good guys to have on your team wherever you are, whether you're in Canada or in Europe or here in the U.S. And would love to see more of them.
Yeah, both of them are definitely those glue guys to a locker room, guys that can play a lot of positions, good character, good mentality, and I think every team needs players like Allan and Bruno. So I definitely think they'll be back. I would expect Bruno to be back in Cavalry. They had a good year this year, and I think he's an important player for them, even though he doesn't start necessarily week in, week out. Just from what I've watched, he was a very important player for them. And then Allan, he was one of Edmonton's main players. Always when you have a new coach coming in, as we've seen in the past in our journey together, you never know what that new coach will want in players. You don't know if he has a guy in your position that he already really likes, kind of from where he's been before. But I expect Allan to be back in Edmonton as well, and hopefully they can get that. They can finally be on the field at the same time and playing against each other as brothers. That'd be interesting.
I think we might see that this year. Definitely, Allan, being and both of them actually being that they, like you said, that they can play multiple positions. That just makes them a little more versatile and increases those chances. So even if they bring somebody in, they might just move Allan to a different position or wherever and bring him back. So. I think there's a lot of soccer ahead for both those guys. Looking forward to see where they go. Yeah.
The one interesting part about the Canadian League is a lot of the players were on like 1+1s or 2-year contracts. And being that this was the second year, there will be a lot of player movement, I would expect. Similar to how in USL League One, being the second year in USL League One, there was a lot of guys on that 1+1. So the player movement will be an interesting kind of thing to watch during this offseason and see where a lot of the top players end up.
Already seeing it.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of guys going on trials from that league. A lot of guys coming in as well. Clubs already announcing signings for 2021. And here we are in the beginning of October. So it's
York 9 signed a striker. I saw, was he German or something? I saw
something
that.
Like that, yeah. I just saw it quickly, but definitely that those clubs are moving forward, and it's exciting to see the opportunities that they're getting for the players in that league with clubs in Europe. They seem to really get it as far as the bigger picture, the bigger sense of what you touched on in the interview as far as being a feeder league, moving players, selling players, contracts, the business side of football, how it works, and it's something I think we could definitely use a little bit more of here in the States.
Yeah. I think we try to do it. I don't know if we always do it perfectly well, but I think it's just the structure of MLS is one that the league owns the players versus the club owning the players, and I think that definitely contributes to the sell on of those players to European clubs. But I do think that North American soccer is so much better off than it was 15 years ago. So we're going in the right direction. There's a lot of things that can be improved when things are growing. You need to change things, but I'm excited about the future of both Canadian and American soccer as well.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. So, Jake, I think we've done enough for this week, and we're going to get ready for our next interview for next week. But thanks so much again for taking the time to do this. I'm having a great time. Hope you are as well.
Yeah, this has been awesome, Dave. I'm loving just listening to the people's individual stories. It's so cool hearing background, hearing things that I played with Allan for 2 years. I've learned some things today I didn't know about him before. So it's been a lot of fun for me.
We want to make sure everybody knows to follow us on Twitter at Aristocrats SOC, SOC, minus the CER. But, you know, one day when Twitter adds on, we can add on to the 15 characters. And then Aristocrats at Aristocrats Soccer on Instagram. And we are getting more followers. And also now that we're on, you know, the podcast is out there on Apple Podcasts. If you can go on and leave us a review, 5-star review, that would help a lot. So anybody out there that's listening, anybody,
Is anybody out
listening, please leave us, follow us, leave us reviews, support the podcast, share it with your friends, your family, your loved ones, your neighbors, your pets, or anybody else that will gladly listen.
Everybody like, subscribe, whatever they say. I know that's YouTube, but leave us a good comment, leave us a good review if you can. But I guess that's it for this week. We'll see you guys next week probably. We'll see who we have in the pipeline for interviews. But until then, I'm the athlete.
I'm the advocate.
And we are
the Aristocrats.